Take a long, slow breath in, and when you're ready, let it drift out like incense from a clay brazier. For the next hour or so, you don't need to solve, chase, or remember a single thing. Just tuck the sheet beneath your chin, settle deeper into your pillow, and let my voice ferry you back to quiet nights beneath the earliest pyramids, to the gentle golden hush of Old Kingdom Egypt. You might picture the moon gliding over the river, hear the faint lap of water against reed boats, and feel warm desert air slipping through open windows of mud brick homes. Everything tonight moves slowly, softly, exactly the pace our minds need when sleep comes calling. Memphis, the white walls city, is winding down. Sunlight reddens, then softens into rose as it brushes rows of palm trunks and low plastered houses. Along the riverbank, linen strips tied to poles flutter like quiet prayer flags. A fisherman untangles his net for the final throw. The damp rope slaps the deck once, then rests. Nearby, date merchants stack leftover baskets beneath a canopy woven of papyrus stems. Tiny frogs, awakened by cooler air, begin their patient chorus. From an alley, you catch the faint crackle of an oil lamp being lit, its little flame answering dusk's invitation. Yet nothing feels hurried. Across the western horizon, the step pyramid of Saqqara leans into the sky like an ancient stairway for souls. Even that great monument seems to exhale, its pale limestone turning lavender, then blue-gray. Citizens pass the pyramid daily, but by evening they hardly glance up. To them it is simply there, as permanent as the horizon. A stray cat threads around a potter's ankles while he stacks freshly thrown jars outside to dry overnight. He yawns, wipes clay from his hands, and whispers a short prayer to Ptah, patron of craftsmen, for sturdy vessels and peaceful dreams. Move inward now into a modest courtyard kitchen. Its floor is tamped earth, cool beneath bare feet. A woman named Hetepher kneads bread dough on a low wooden board. Her wrists roll forward, back, forward again in unhurried rhythm. Each exhale leaves a small cloud of barley flour glowing in lamplight. Her eldest daughter fans an adobe oven, coaxing embers to a steady glow. The air smells of yeast, honey, and charred acacia wood.
Bread is Egypt's heartbeat. Workers receive it as pay. Priests break it as offering. Children dip it into lentil stew.
Tonight, Hetepher presses an amulet-shaped stamp onto one round loaf, an eye of Horus, believing the symbol will ward off illness. She slides the loaf into the oven, listens for the low hiss of dough meeting hot stone, then leans against the wall, eyes half closed, feeling the gentle heat on her cheeks. In the corner, a clay jar of beer ferments quietly, faint bubbles nudging a lotus petal cork. Outside the doorway, you hear crickets and the soft thud of sandals as neighbors return from the fields. No voices rise. Conversation is naturally hushed, as though night itself is a respected guest. A narrow lane leads to a small temple library, its doorway framed by lotus bud columns. Inside, two scribes sit cross-legged on woven mats. They've unrolled fresh papyrus, but are in no rush to write. One lightly taps a reed pen against a palette, stirring carbon ink. The other hums a lullaby he heard on a ferry, low, slow, drifting like the Nile itself. Shelves of scrolls breathe a faint tang of dried marsh reeds and cedar resin used for preservation. Candle-bright lamps sway, projecting oval halos onto painted walls. By day, these scribes tally wheat shipments and record royal decrees. By night, they copy hymns to Hathor, or love poems exchanged between young nobles. Their muscles relax, posture loosens, work becomes art. A single line of hieroglyphs can take several minutes, each curve drawn with reverence. They pause often to sip diluted wine, or simply close their eyes, letting silence settle. Outside, a night heron croaks, its echo caught by masonry and returned twice as soft. Ink dries slowly, thoughts slow with it. In dim corners, dust motes perform lazy spirals, visible only when passing through lamplight. Farther upriver, at the palace compound, a young astronomer named Kemtet climbs limestone steps to the flat roof. Gentle wind combs his linen robe as he unfurls a simple starboard, crossed strings knotted at equal intervals for measuring risings. Tonight, he will note the position of Sopdet, the bright herald of the inundation, though the flooding season is months away. He isn't pressured. His elder wrote earlier that patient eyes see truer skies. Kemtet inhales cool upper air. From up here, the city spreads like a quilt of lanterns. Temple braziers glow steady. Household torches flicker and wink. Beyond them, the desert rolls into bluish nothingness before meeting the star-sprent vault. The Milky Way, or the winding waterway, arcs overhead, a celestial mirror of the Nile.
On the city's quieter edge, near a garden shaded with sycamores, a midwife named Setepi rests beside a shallow basin of water. Her day was full. She assisted in 2 births and walked miles through winding alleys. But now, under the hush of stars, her breath comes slow and steady. She dips a cloth into the basin, wipes her arms and neck, then sits cross-legged on a reed mat. In her lap is a pouch of amulets, tiny lions, frogs, scarabs. Each one has been touched by mothers-to-be. Setepi believes the charms remember prayers whispered to them. Sometimes, in sleep, she imagines they whisper back. Beside her, a cluster of reeds rustles faintly in the breeze. Somewhere deeper in the garden, a small owl blinks from its perch, swiveling silently. The palm branches overhead sway like slow fans, scattering moonlight in soft flickers across the stone path. Setepi hums an old cradle tune, its melody older than even she knows, and nearby, unseen but near, a night breeze slips through lattice walls, curling past flowering henna and myrrh trees. Everything here exists in a quiet rhythm, the kind that doesn't need to announce itself to be real. Elsewhere, in a family's inner courtyard, elders gather for an evening tale. Their voices are soft, almost like wind brushing dry reeds. The storyteller, an old uncle with a linen wrap tucked over one shoulder, leans forward. His story tonight is about a clever monkey who tricked a crocodile and became advisor to the king. Children press close, heads resting on laps, legs tucked beneath them. They know the story, but it's not about surprise. It's about tone, pauses, smiles in the voice. The story lives in rhythm, not plot. A grandmother hands out figs and toasted barley cakes. The sweet, nutty scent mixes with the faint smoke rising from a tiny censer near the steps. Incense, maybe frankincense or kaifi, coils slowly upward, catching in the folds of everyone's clothing. The flames don't crackle, they whisper. A small dog turns in a circle 3 times, then settles at the old man's feet, nose tucked beneath tail. A neighbor peeks in through the lattice, listens a moment, smiles, and disappears again into the dark. Even in noble houses, evening routines carry the same gentle cadence. A steward lays out clean linen robes for the morning. A servant oils the door hinges to keep them from squeaking. Candles are pinched out slowly, not snuffed. An alabaster basin of cool water is placed beside a sleeping mat, and a low couch is dusted with a a soft palm fan. In one room, a young girl traces constellations on the ceiling with a stick of charcoal, copying what her brother saw from the roof earlier. The stars are not precise, but they don't need to be. They're her version of the sky. She yawns mid-stroke and lets the stick fall from her hand. As the night deepens, even the sacred spaces grow quiet. At a small shrine near the river's edge, a temple attendant named Mianka washes the steps with cool water. He does not rush. Each sweep of the brush is slow, deliberate, a kind of offering in itself. The sandstone breathes in the moisture, darkening briefly before drying again in the warm breeze. A flickering oil lamp hangs from the lintel, casting golden ripples across the carved doorway. Inside, the air smells faintly of incense and beeswax, familiar and comforting, like a memory that never leaves. Mianka pauses to sit cross-legged before the altar, where a small figurine of Hathor rests, motherly and serene, crowned with sun disk and cow's horns. He offers a date and a cup of barley beer, softly murmuring words of gratitude for his family's safety, his aging father's steady breath, the harvest not yet failed. His voice is low, not meant to reach the gods with force, but to drift up like smoke and settle gently wherever it's needed. Silence answers, but it's a kind silence, the kind that listens. Outside, the Nile carries on its ancient rhythm, lapping softly at the shore. A single reed boat glides past, barely disturbing the water. A lantern hangs at its prow, lighting the current in glimmers. The boatman, wrapped in a faded shawl, hums under his breath. He's delivering offerings to a nearby temple, but there's no hurry. The night is long, the moon is high, the path is clear. He steers by instinct more than sight, following the river's curve as though it were drawn on his heart. On the opposite bank, papyrus thickets rustle quietly, frogs chirp. A small crocodile slips into the water with barely a ripple, its tail leaving a faint V behind. This is the world's natural state, still, breathing, slow. No markets call, no carts rumble, just the patient pulse of an ancient land, still alive in the dark. A hippo bellows once, far upstream, then nothing more. In a modest home near the embankment, a potter's apprentice sleeps beside his tools. His hands are dusted with dried slip, fingers curled around a carving stick he forgot to put away. Nearby, unfinished bowls rest in a row like sleeping ducklings, their rims turned slightly toward the door, as if listening. The fire in the kiln has long since died down, its heat reduced to a low warmth that keeps the chill at bay. A dog snores faintly under the workbench. His mother gently lifts a blanket over him, tucking it beneath his arms. She doesn't speak, but lingers a moment, brushing a lock of hair from his forehead. Then she pads away on calloused feet. Past the stacked jars, past the drying shelves, into the hallway, where a tiny clay lantern flickered. Above the resting homes, the night sky remains unchanged as it has for thousands of years. Stars burn with soft steadiness, constellations wandering slowly across the heavens. In Old Kingdom Egypt, these celestial lights are more than decoration. They're beings, guides, protectors. The goddess Nut arches overhead, her body the sky, her arms and legs stretched from horizon to horizon. Beneath her, the world sleeps in her quiet embrace. Atop one of the priest houses, a father and son lie side by side on mats, staring upward. The boy's perhaps 8 years old, full of questions he's learned not to ask aloud at this hour.
His father speaks slowly, pointing to Orion, the soul of Osiris walking in the night. The son repeats the name under his breath, committing the shapes to memory. Their fingers trace the path of the stars, not in haste, but in reverence, like touching the threads of a sacred cloth. Down below, inside the same home, a grandmother oils her joints with a mix of castor and juniper. Her movements are slow, circular, practiced. She hums to herself, barely louder than the whisper of wind through the open windows. A dried fig soaks in warm beer nearby, an old remedy for aching teeth. She doesn't mind the pain so much anymore. It's become like an old friend who visits only at night. She pats her cheek, nods to herself, and folds into her bedding. Back in the workshop district, a young man named Panagi wipes down a wooden chisel and places it carefully inside a cloth pouch. His work, decorative stone carving, requires focus and quiet strength. Though he rests now, his mind gently reviews the lotus motifs and falcon patterns he etched earlier that day. He visualizes the next pale he'll begin at dawn, its balance, its symmetry. But instead of planning, the images float softly in his imagination like petals in water, drifting towards sleep. His sister in the next room tends to a tiny oil lamp carved into the shape of a cat. She adjusts the wick, dips a reed into sesame oil, and writes a single word on a potsherd: peace. She places it near the window, just beneath a strip of linen dyed indigo. The wind stirs it slightly, casting a shifting shadow over the floor. Then she lies down, eyes half closed, listening to the house settle into silence. Wood creaks gently, walls sigh with the change in temperature, and somewhere far off a dog barks once, then goes quiet. Throughout Memphis, these moments repeat in countless homes. Some sleep alone, others in clusters of mats, arms draped across loved ones. The city is a quiet sea of breath and dreams, sheltered by mud brick walls and starlight. And though the pharaoh himself may rest in a palace of polished granite, his people sleep much the same as he does, beneath the same sky, warmed by the same earth, wrapped in stories older than time. In the temple gardens, guarded by low walls and towering sycamore trees, sacred ponds reflect the moon like polished bronze. A priestess walks slowly along the edge, her bare feet cool against the smooth stone path. In her hands, she carries a bundle of blue lotus blossoms, gathered just before dusk. Their petals have begun to close for the night, curling inward in sleep. She places them gently into a clay bowl, which she sets beside a statue of Thoth. The ibis-headed god of wisdom watches silently, his gaze cast in gold leaf. The priestess whispers a small prayer, not asking, simply offering thanks for another day of balance. Her voice fades beneath the breeze. A frog splashes somewhere in the reeds. Cicadas tick like distant water clocks. The rhythm of the garden is unbroken. Each plant, each leaf, has its place and its hour. Small oil lamps flicker along the walkway, casting soft pools of amber light onto carved stone benches. She sits for a moment, closes her eyes and listens. Not for answers, but for quiet. Across the river, a group of reed workers sleep beside their harvest, bundles stacked high beneath a makeshift awning. Their hands are stained green from the day's labor, but they sleep easily, arms behind heads, mouths slightly open to the sky. One of them murmurs now and then, dreaming of something long forgotten by morning. A dog snoozes with its chin on a basket. The scent of dried river grass still lingers in the warm night air, blending with dust, oil, and old earth. Nearby, a musician packs up his lyre, wrapping it in linen to protect the strings from the night's humidity. He's just finished playing in a merchant's courtyard, his melodies drifting like perfume through the streets. He walks home slowly, not because he's tired, but because he enjoys the stillness. Passing by the quiet stalls, the shuttered doors, the dim lanterns hanging by clay ropes, he feels the presence of the city even when it sleeps. It breathes beneath him. At home, he places the lyre beside his sleeping mat and drinks a small cup of cool water. His wife is already asleep, her hand resting on the blanket's edge as if inviting him to join her. He doesn't disturb her. Instead, he lies beside her, closes his eyes, and listens to the silence. Not empty silence, but full of hidden life, slow breaths, settled dust, and the great sigh of a world at rest. Somewhere not far, an ox shifts in its stall. A clay roof creaks faintly, and in the high window of a scribe's home, a candle finally burns out with a quiet hiss. The night has no announcements left to make. It simply continues, soft and wide, carrying everyone gently forward. Not far from the palace walls, a courtyard watchman named Nebamun finishes his rounds. He carries a short staff and a lantern hung from a curved bronze hook, but there's little to guard against tonight. The streets are calm and the air is so still that even palm fronds barely stir. He stops beneath a fig tree, leans against its smooth trunk, and tilts his head back to see the sky framed between the leaves. He smiles to himself. The constellations are exactly where he left them the night before. Nebamun hums a quiet tune, an old song his grandfather taught him during long patrols just like this one. The words have faded, but the melody remains, steady and slow, like the turning of time itself. Around him, shadows stretch long and smooth across packed earth. A moth flutters near his lantern, but finds no flame. He watches it drift away like a floating seed. Back inside the home of a well-to-do artisan, soft moonlight spills across carved furniture and folded linens. In one room, a mother nurses her newborn child. Her arms cradle the tiny bundle with practiced ease. She does not speak, but rocks gently, her feet drawing small circles on the mat. The baby's breathing slows. A thin thread of hair clings to his cheek. The mother strokes it away with her finger and sighs. A sound deeper than tiredness, gentler than worry. It's the sigh of someone who knows this moment is fleeting, but enough. Nearby, her husband stirs a pot of barley porridge over low coals. Though he's not hungry, he's simply keeping his hands busy, waiting until sleep finds him. In the corner, a cat sleeps curled into a perfect spiral on a folded cloth. A clay cup rests on the windowsill, catching moonlight like it's made of silver. Somewhere outside, a donkey brays once, then falls quiet again. The room glows with warmth, not just from the coals, but from the slow pulse of a household at peace. Dishes stacked, doors latched, sandals placed neatly by the door. A gentle breeze carries the scent of baked brick and old wood. On the shelf, a small painted figure of Bess, the protector of families, smiles with his wide eyes and lion's mane. The man nods to the figurine out of habit, a silent goodnight passed between guardian and home. Elsewhere in the city, old men doze in chairs too comfortable to leave. Young women braid each other's hair by lamplight. Children clutch reed dolls and drift into dreams where they're pharaohs, boat captains, or dancers in flower crowns. The boundaries between day and night, work and rest, dream and memory grow soft. The city, like a great breathing being, exhales and falls still once more. Its pulse slows with the stars. As the night reaches its quietest hour, even the animals seem to understand it is time to rest. Donkeys lie folded in straw, birds nestle beaks beneath wings, and dogs stretch out long and still beside doorways. The Nile moves with the silence of breath, never stopping, never rushing, just existing, like time made liquid. A reed bends gently in the current. Its reflection wavered, but not broken. It is a perfect picture of peace. In one final corner of the city, a teacher dreams beneath a thin linen sheet. All day he had recited poems and taught students to draw birds and snakes in neat rows. His fingers are stained with ink and chalk, but now they lie open and still. On his low table rests a folded piece of papyrus with a half-finished verse. It reads only, "In the hush of evening, the gods." The rest will come to him, perhaps after sleep. A breeze stirs through his window. It smells of the river and crushed lotus. The curtain sways once, then settles. Outside, the world holds still. Somewhere, on a rooftop, a bowl of milk has been left out for Bastet, the cat goddess. No one is watching it, but everyone believes it will be enough. Belief here is not a matter of shouting or ceremony. It is a soft practice, repeated without question, like watering a plant or tying a sash. Under the stars, the step pyramid of Saqqara looms in silence, same as it has for centuries. Its ancient stones hold memories that no living tongue can recite. It is not feared in the dark, it is familiar. The people live in its shadow, but also in its comfort. It stands not as a warning, but as a reminder that life continues, stacked, shaped, and handed from one generation to the next. By now, almost every lantern has gone out. A few flicker still, not out of duty, but because someone forgot. The city sighs as a whole. Crickets slow, owls blink, dreams deepen. Above, Nut stretches her star-filled body across the horizon. Somewhere out of sight, the sun waits patiently to begin its rise, though no one is ready for it yet. It will come in its time. And so, dear listener, you've wandered through the stillness of an ancient world, you've walked the quiet streets, passed through shadowed rooms, and watched stars ripple across temple pools. You've heard the lullabies of a civilization long gone, but never truly silent. Let that hush stay with you now. Let the night fold around you like linen. Let the past and the present blend like water and wind. There is nothing left to do tonight. The story has ended, the city sleeps, and you are exactly where you need to be. Good night.